It's the most horrific thing that a parent can possibly go through, is to sit in the end of the bed with their deceased son. Daniel was like any other kid growing up. He was pretty active, a very good sportsman. He was into the sport of cycling. He achieved national status at that level as an under 19-year-old junior. When Daniel was about 17, he had an altercation with a motor car. He fell off his bike and broke his collarbone. And for me, that was the starting point of his pain-killing addiction. I got him a job on an oil rig for land-based to start with, and then he moved on to the big stuff out in the sea. In that environment, he was 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, so he had plenty of time to prepare himself to go back to work. And he played very hard, make no mistake about that. I'm not naive about that. When he come on the off times, I know that he's a young bloke, and he played very hard. However, he wasn't silly. He would have known when he was due to go back to work, he would have been on the straight and narrow, clear, jump in the taxi and away we go. Thursday the 29th of July in 2010, Daniel went to have day surgery for a small operation on his nose, very minor. He was in and out of the day surgery in 4 hours or less. But it's the sort of operation or medical test that you would take something very minor for, a prescription drug that's for a toothache or something like that, because the operation's no more severe than that. Daniel was allowed to leave the day surgery for the nose operation with a substantial quantity of painkillers, far exceeding the type of operation that he'd had. He should never have been allowed to have access to that. He shouldn't have been allowed to walk out of that place with that quality and quantity of painkiller in his pocket. Daniel had the nose operation on the Thursday. On the Friday, he was at home at his mother's place. That's where he was recovering. He was fine, he was in good nick. His mother had control of the prescription medication that he'd been given. She had some knowledge of that, so she took control of the situation. Daniel was fine. At 8 o'clock on the Friday night, I spoke to Daniel. He was as clear as a bell, and we'd arranged to have a family lunch on the Sunday. He sounded real good, in complete control. During the night, he took a substantial amount of that medication. When he got up the next day, 10 o'clock in the morning, his mother saw him, and he was very unstable on his feet. He was staggering as if he'd had alcohol. We know through the autopsy that he had no alcohol in his body whatsoever, so this is totally related to pain medication. His mother sent him back to bed. She said, "You look untidy, you're obviously not well, you need to go back to bed." So he went back to bed 10 o'clock in the morning on the Saturday. She went back into his bedroom an hour or so later. She just walked past, couldn't hear much activity, walked in, and his appearance was that there was a problem. Daniel's 18-year-old brother was in the shower at the time, and he ran naked from the shower on hearing his mother's screams and entered the bedroom. He dragged his brother from the floor and commenced CPR on his brother. One brother fighting for another brother's life for 15 minutes until the ambulance arrived. At 1:39 p.m. on Saturday the 31st of July 2010, my phone rang at home, and Stephen, the younger brother, was on the phone, and he said, "Are you sitting down?" And I made a joke of it because I thought he must want some money. He didn't want money, and I was sitting down anyway, and he said, "Daniel's dead." I got in the car and I drove to the house. The ambulance was there, the two ambo guys met me out the front, and I went into the house and my son was dead in his bed. Now that we have got the opportunity to look back on medical records and on and the history of medication, we can see that spaced out through that 6 years, he had access to painkillers. It's not just the addiction to painkillers, it's the loss, it's the untimely death, it's the loss of a loved one, it's the huge hole that it leaves that you lose a child. If someone believes that they've got a problem, or they believe they've got a problem within the family, go and get help. go and seek some advice. It's out there, it's available to you. You need to take it extremely serious. This is a life-threatening issue. If I was fortunate enough to have Daniel here now, and that we could look back at where the mistakes were made, I'd say to him, do you realise how serious this is? Do you realise that you go to bed and you might not wake up?